Hello and welcome to Upfront on the Voice of America. My name is Jackson Bunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us today. In the studio, we have a special guest all the way from Monrovia in Liberia, my friend Nyonton. Laraman, good to see you, man.
Jackson.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think the last time you were here was, 4 years ago?
Yeah.
How time flies.
2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was in 2018.
It's been a while.
We had just taken office.
Yes.
And you wanted me to talk about the prospect.
Right. And you actually have a connection to the incoming administration. Let me ask you how President Boakai was able to pull off this victory as a person who is really plugged into the campaign.
I think he was able to build a team. He brought together coalition forces. So people were willing to come together to solve the problem. For most voters, it was about correcting the mistakes of 2017 when they voted George Weah over Boakai. So yeah, technically he was able to bring the country back together.
So this was actually a rerun?
Yes, it was a
rematch. Yeah, rematch. Yes, a rematch, correct.
Yeah.
President George Weah just had his 6-year mandate. What is his legacy going to be, aside from the fact that he's probably one of the few African presidents who graciously conceded to his opponent even before the Electoral Commission had fully really announced the results?
I think Weah has the chance to ride on the back of that concession as the greatest source of his legacy. When you look back, when he came to office, there were a lot of urgency, national urgency, that needed to be resolved. The issue of the economy, he ran on the back of fighting corruption and establishing the War and Economic Crimes Code, which he did not do. He ran on the back of young people who overwhelmingly supported him, with 61% of the vote in the runoff of 2017, and he filled the interests, the hopes, and aspirations of those young people. So the only success or the only bright spot for Weah in his post-presidency is his early concession.
What are some of the things that he did during his presidency that you would say Liberians are proud of, some things that the incoming president will build upon?
Unfortunately, there are many things that we aren't proud of. We weren't proud of the fact that, and you interviewed me on that, the 16 billion that got missing, investigation to that is still inconclusive. We weren't proud of the 25 million mop-up exercise. The investigation on that is still inconclusive. We weren't proud of the extrajudicial killing of auditors all across the country. The president leaving the country for 48 days, going to watch soccer game of his son who played on the U.S. male national
Qatar.
team.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we aren't proud of, unfortunately, as opposed to matching the expectation.
But you have to say that there's got to be some good things that he did in his 6 years in power.
With the exception of building soccer sport parks along the fish market and West Point, but I don't think that's what the people of West Point was asking for.
Okay. So now that Liberians have given the mandate to Joseph Boakai, what do they want to see from this administration, and what do you think is coming in as top on his priority list?
Well, it's to end the culture of impunity. And I think, personally, as someone who worked on his campaign team within the media aspect of it, I think that's where we have to focus. The first thing that Boakai needs to do is to restore the trust and confidence in the institutions of government. And one of the ways to do that is to ensure that the right people are appointed to anti-graft institutions. You have the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, you have the General Auditing Commission, you have the Internal Audit Commission, as well as other anti-graft institutions. Make sure that people who have a strong legacy and reputation in fighting corruption, ensuring that we have open and transparent audit across the board, right? Once he can do that, begin to look at the language of the geopolitics, right? Whoever he chooses as his foreign minister should be someone who is seasoned diplomat, who's able to knock doors and make things open, right? He already running on the back of the IRS agenda, which is the pillar of the economic plan that he has. We need to move beyond that a little to incorporate young people into that plan and make them at the front and center of inclusive economic development.
What do you mean? What is the IRS plan?
So it's agricultural roles, education, sanitation, and tourism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are some of his top priorities coming in.
sector.
Let's talk about the election itself. How was the Electoral Commission able to pull this off? And what was the turnout like in Liberia during the election?
Well, we had a massive turnout as compared to, you know, this is the first election where Liberians largely funded their own electionary process. The turnout was really massive. We had close to 3 million people participating in the process as compared to 2017.
And obviously his biggest support base is the youth, which is the largest demographic in the country. What are Liberian youth looking for in the next leadership?
A lot of young people with our skills today are looking forward to having the opportunity on the back of government to get scholarships. A lot of young people who have graduated from universities but still no job are looking forward to the economy being open so that they are able to find jobs. We have to match education and youth empowerment in a way that we speak to the core of the issues that universities are now producing graduates that the economy is actually asking for. So there's a whole host of young people that needs to be reskilled.
Education reform?
Yeah, education reform,
okay.
You know, should be part of the agenda.
Okay. How do you tackle youth unemployment in Liberia?
Well, first of all, you speak the language of making it easy to do business in Liberia. Open the private sector so that more bilateral partners, multinational companies that are coming to the country have it easy to do business. Stabilize the economy as far as, you know, dealing with the political as well as governance issues so that people do not feel that Liberia is now a safe space to vote, you know, minimize as well protests, you know, which characterized the Weah government over the last 6 years, and send young people to work. Because one of the ironies that we saw in the Weah government is becoming historically a problem for the country is that many young people that are graduating from high schools and universities are seeing the public sector as the easier way to fortune. We have to change that around. We have to ensure that as much as many investments are coming to the country, it is decentralized. Under the Madam Salif government, we saw the likes of Equatorial Palm Oil and other concession companies that are coming, opening into the leeward counties and having operations there. So in that way, people who are graduating in Monrovia from universities are able to go into, you know, specific counties to work and leave the politics in Monrovia.
What is the situation like right now in Liberia economically?
Oh, it's bad. The country is not doing so well. The government itself has a very narrow envelope in terms of revenue generation. They struggle to pay wage bill for civil servants. A lot of young people are out of job. And there's hopelessness across the country. And I think that's one of the situations we have to revive.
What is the thing that surprised you about this election? Aside from the concession of President Weah to his opponent, what are some of the things that really surprised you about Liberians in this election?
Well, I feel that Liberians stood up. They exercised Article 1 of their constitution that says all power is inherent in the people. That when the people we the people.
Yeah.
And that when the people give their mandate, you don't take it for granted, right? It's been historically said that it's difficult, and all across Africa and in the region, that it's difficult for an incumbent to lose election in Africa. I think the election of Joseph Boakai already demystified that myth that it is possible that Liberia can be a shining example of democracy once more in the region.
Okay, so 6 years from now, what kind of conversations are we going to be having?
Well, we'll be discussing the success story of this new administration.
Yeah.
I think Boakai is going to perform, he's going to do well. He's been in the public service. More so, he's been at the table where major decisions were made owing to the fact that he was vice president to Madam Salif. He saw some of the mistakes, and he's ready to right the wrongs.
Okay. Now, obviously, he's going to be leading a government of mostly young people. He has that issue of age, you know, on his shoulders, like here in the U.S. and other places where they say, you know, the leadership does not really reflect the demographic of the country. How much of, I guess, the people around him that he has surrounded himself with reflect the demographics of the constituency of the people that he's going to represent? Well,
I think.
How well does he know the issues?
No, he's very open of the issue. He needs to know I mean, for most of the campaign, he didn't know extra rehearsal. Okay, so it comes natural for him to discuss the issues of Liberia. The issue of Liberia are no different from what we've had over the last decade. The difference is that it has been compounding over time. So he understands the issue. But as far as the demographic in terms of the people he's going to surround himself, a reflection of that is from the campaign. We formed what we call the Unity Party Alliance, and that alliance took into consideration people from different segments of the society. He's a strong believer of women. In fact, the national campaign chairperson was a woman, who was Senator Nyonton Lawrence. He's a strong believer of the young people. A lot of us, play a major role in the campaign in ensuring not just young people in general, but first-time voters. We were a major target of this process. We're participating in the process in an unprecedented manner. He ran on the mantra of think Liberia, love Liberia, and together we can build Liberia.
Laramaand Nyonton, thank you so much for coming all the way. Such a pleasure to see you again after a long time.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you guys cover the event of the inauguration.